Well, fellas, I really didn't think we'd report before Chris Jones did. But, here we are. Welcome to Only Weird Games on KCSN. We'll tell you more here right after this.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
I am so very happy to be here alongside Seth Keysor, Nate Taylor. I am Joshua Brisco. This is Only Weird Games on KC Sports Network. Fellas, we can talk about the name of the show. We can talk about where we talk about the roster cuts. We can talk about the comments that will pour in as we are live in the video world for this episode today.
Yeah.
I just want to hear you guys. I just want to hear your voice. I just want to see the smiling faces that we all have here today, because usually we can't see each other in this show. And for a little while, we weren't sure what, quote, this show was going to be at all. So, fellas, it's so good to see you. It's so good to be here.
It's fantastic. He did wear a tie to this occasion, so that's how you know it's. I mean, we've made it, guys. We can't thank you enough for being patient, for really, this officially kicks off the season in my mind, because we're here, guys, on camera. Like, I know how chaotic my life can be. I know how tedious. I mean, look at this, man. Somebody got an upgrade in equipment, y'all, before we started recording. And
1080p.
And it's not the professional broadcaster. I asked for it.
Look, I don't want to brag or anything, but I paid dollars and dollars for this webcam, and I look sharp. Now, I look sharp in the sense that I'm very well defined. I'm not sure this adds to the viewer experience, though. As I look at my picture, and I've got a lot of questions for Jazz when I get home. I don't know if you guys know this. I mean, this is a brand new show. I have a wife. Her name is Jazz.
Yes.
Kind of a looker. I don't know if you know this.
This show's going to be a really weird thing for people to start finding right now. I've given this some thought, guys. That's going to happen. Like, we are in front of people who have not seen or heard of us before, who've not been lifelong listeners of Times Ours over the 4 years that it was a life. Mm-hmm. They're going to be people who experience this and are very confused.
And look, they'll figure out that for the most part, we'll talk football occasionally. There'll be, I guess, things to discuss regarding the Kansas City Chiefs, but that's like it's gonna happen eventually, but for now, we have found the correct place to start this new voyage, the correct just audience that we have both respected and admired from afar.
Yep.
Even though we're even though 2/3 of us are in town.
Okay.
And look, for all the anticipation for the outpouring of love and support for what we did previously. And, it was strategic, ladies and gentlemen, as to why I asked people, I think it was the Cardinals preseason game, like, hey, you got a name for the podcast? Like, please, like, anyone, tell us. So we did a bit of crowdsourcing. We've tried our best to not bombard you, but obviously keep us in your mind. And yeah, we found really the only title that makes sense for us, considering that this audience is going to find out sooner rather than later, whether they want to or not. I mean, weird is just what we do, y'all. Like, so I mean, there's plenty of people who have loved this, and so we are opening up ourselves to obviously have an even bigger audience. If you loved Times Ours, please share that with your friends, whether they're obviously in Kansas City or across the world, because there are people in Japan who listen to us. And with the help of KCSN, the fact that I used to do a weekly show with BJ last season, the partnership, it made the most sense for us. Josh has really been leading the way. So for anybody who loved Times Ours, they should give a huge credit to Joshua Brisco, because this man This man was putting in hours, y'all, while I was up in St. Joseph, Missouri, grinding that tape, y'all. Just grinding so much tape to find out that, yes, unfortunately, the team today had to, in essence, say goodbye to, almost half the roster, which is wild when you think about what this day means. But it does sort of propel us to the regular season and the fact that it's only going to get weirder, guys. So that's really all I have to say, despite knowing people want to clearly find out how weird this thing is getting between Chris Jones and the Chiefs. And it is getting weird, y'all. It's getting really, really weird.
It only gets weirder from here is actually, I think we just found the unofficial subtitle. Although weird is what we do. We're going to have some options.
Yeah.
I got at least one tweet today from somebody who said, hey, really happy to see you guys over here. But why is that the name of the show? And I don't know if that was a serious question from a newer listener or a sarcastic one from an older listener. But we end up, I found that tweet that I quote tweeted today. We've certainly been talking about this since I think the dawn of times ours. The Kansas City Chiefs play one specific genre of football game. It happens pretty much every week. And when it's not weird, that's weird too.
Yes.
The Kansas City Chiefs play, as we've discussed many times over, only weird games. And
exclusively weird games.
Exclusive.
Tucker did the logo, Seth. Shut up for 1 second, please. Don't make him change the name and do a different logo. It took too much work.
Strange contests brought to you by the Kansas City Sports Network.
No!
Oh, sorry. It's only weird games. And that logo looks so great. Everything we're doing right now looks so professional. Oh, Josh, you were talking, please.
I was gonna say, since we mentioned producer extraordinaire, graphic artist extraordinaire, maybe most importantly, almost entirely sports intern extraordinaire, one of the OG interns, Tucker D. Franklin, who is obviously a longtime part of KCSN. We had some late night texts back and forth to make sure we were landing on something brilliant, and Tucker crushed it in a major way. Here's my one big picture thing, and then Seth, I'll give you a chance to, again, introduce people to your wife more or your kids or whatever it is that you think is important from your perspective. But a couple of things are really, really exciting to me now, which is one, and I think people know this. If you've listened to Times Ours and you've been a part of KC Sports Network, you probably could have guessed. This is going to be the show we used to do in video, completely surrounded by people who also understand this show and why we do it the way we do, which is just that this is how we are, and that we're friends. They like to talk about football. Mm-hmm. But this is going to be, at worst, the same show you were listening to a month ago. I think that we have better things in front of us still.
Yes.
But man, I don't think you would be, I don't think I would be able to hide this fact if the inverse were true. I'm really excited to be doing this show with you two at this place, because I think everything that KCSN's been doing for a while, like you said, we are not only enjoyers of the content, but friends of most of these people. And I'm just really stoked to be here. I'm really excited about Only Weird Games. I'm looking at the logo, and I am thinking that we may finally have a future with merch in it. People asked about Times Ours merch for years. Yes. Never happened. Sorry, everybody. I think Tucker and I can maybe make some magic. We can figure some things out. But I think this will be a very, 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 very similar show to the one that hopefully you enjoyed before. If you're new to the show, we got something special for you. And we know it's going to be only weird games for the Chiefs, only weird shows for us. Seth, what do you got before we start talking roster and nonsense?
First and foremost, if there's anyone here who's new, and based on the comments and the amount of grief that we've taken in the comments, I think most of you are old friends.
Yeah.
I could not be happier to be doing this. Unlike two other people who are part of this podcast, I have worked with BJ previously. Last year doesn't count, Nate. We're ignoring information that doesn't agree with me.
Okay. I was like, hey, man. Hey.
And so
right, fine.
I am reuniting with multiple alumni from SB Nation. Some of you don't understand what it means when I say Minnesota Chiefs fan and Baja are back together. but we are, and it's terrific. It's incredible. For people that might be new or who are listening to this podcast new and they're looking for Chiefs content and like, man, these guys have talked for a while already about themselves. This is our first podcast. We don't usually talk about ourselves this much. That's not actually true.
Oh, we do. Sorry, Seth. We do that at least 10 minutes every show.
But it's within the context of games, wins, losses.
Or if one of us happens to bring up the wrong or very right movie and it just goes. But so I analyze film. Nate knows more about the Chiefs than anyone who's not named Brett Veach. Josh has diabetes.
Wow.
That's true. That's true. My defining factor. Just ask Seth. Just ask Seth, a lawyer who does lawyer stuff for fun, really. That's where his passion is.
Yeah. And I'm wearing blue, guys. This is not black. So there are people that watch on like the Chief of North stuff. This is blue. This isn't black. It's just I'm figuring out the lighting thing here.
I don't have my ring light on. I see a ring light reflecting in your glasses.
I know.
That's amazing.
Oh, if I lift look at this.
Oh, get your shine on. Oh my goodness.
I've got a ring light behind me. My skin's never looked better. I'm just excited. I've de-aged a full 20 years, which makes me how old, Josh?
65?
Yep, give or take. There it is. See, sometimes you don't just put it on the tee. You walk them all the way up to the batter's box. You just help them choke up on that bat because they're very small and the bat's heavy. It's like you just swing as hard as you can. And so I'm excited to do this show. I cannot wait to talk Chiefs. And Jack, I've got great news for you. We just so people who are listening to the podcast, this is going to be so
comments rolling in have been awesome.
Jack asked, do these guys know ball? He will only listen if they know ball. Now, fortunately, the knowing ball percentage on this podcast, I mean, getting hit a third of the time, that sends you to the Hall of Fame in baseball.
Or it sends you to this podcast if you're a hater of Troy Aikman.
We got a hater of Troy Aikman, an ultimate ball knower, and a man who makes noises that are illegal in 17 countries. So we are ready to go. I could not be more excited. And, of course, it comes on, cut down day. There might be news.
Some of the comments that have stuck in my head was somebody said, I'm just glad Josh made the 3-man roster. That was very funny. 3 men, 2 pancreases. I'll add an additional like a halftime, maybe 2.5 pancreases. Mine does some of its job still, just not most of it. And to answer a hypothetical rhetorical question that Seth asked a second ago, and then we're going to dive into all of the stuff happening today. You can continue to read all of Nate's work on theathletic.com. You can continue to read all of Seth's work at mnchiefsfan.substack.com. And you can continue to hear me weekdays 10 to 2 in the zone and after Chiefs games on Sports Radio 810 WHB. So we're all in our usual places, 810, The Athletic, the Chief of the North newsletter, and also 810 sometimes.
Hey, Seth, do you want me to text Tom Martin that we're on camera and he can see this? Because
Tom doesn't know me that well, and I'm not even sure he's aware of the running bit we have.
Nate Dogg in the comments is like, when is Tom Martin coming on? And I think that's a great idea.
Need is to be immediately next to Tom Martin so people can do the whole Old Spice, look at your man, then look at me, then back to your man, then back to me thing. I don't need Jazz seeing me and him standing next to one another.
I kind of think they could already do that, Seth.
Yeah. Also, we did not tell Danielle this, but Danielle, formerly, I guess now Times Ours, again, weird to say, she just texted us, only weird games, it's perfect. So we've done it, guys. We've done it. With your support, we are here. It is only weird games. And, much like I talked about, I guess, wow, it is almost a month ago, but much like I talked about then, we started that podcast coming into training camp, trying to find out where things were. Of course, if you weren't with us then, hallelujah, God bless you. You didn't miss much. But we did talk about Breland Speaks and Chad Henne. So, Josh, who is the first player that we are going to talk about on Only Weird Games?
I did think about that, and I wanted it to be the proper, funniest name it could have been. I do like the idea a lot, but I know I said a name right before in the cold open, and there's another name that questions will continue to pour in about, a guy who did not get cut today, a guy who isn't on the active roster today, though, either. We're going to start with Chris Jones, and we're going to start right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
College football fans, are you ready for week one? DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking you up with a can't-miss offer to start the season strong. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on college football and score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Anything can happen in college football. Your team could go from unranked to dynasty mode in just a couple of years. Change comes fast. The only thing that's a lock is the great offers from DraftKings Sportsbook. Life's more fun when you're in on the action, so here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on college football. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 years or older, physically present in Kansas. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort.
We're back. Tucker handles the business in between, and we can now talk about number 95, Chris Jones, not here in Kansas. I mean, I haven't seen him in Kansas City, not on the active roster, certainly, as he was officially placed on the reserve did not report list. The holdout continues. I don't know how loaded this phrase is from Adam Schefter, but he tweeted out the phrase, holdout goes on with no end currently in sight. We can editorialize.
From text from the agent.
Come on. It was perfect. I don't, honestly, I don't know if it's from the agent, Seth. I don't know. It might come from the other side. Because the other side made it clear how long the holdout could go. I mean, you want to talk about putting some sauce on the tweet. Ooh, it was delicious. Oh my God. This man said no end in sight.
Not in sight.
Also week 8. So, I mean, look, we all know Chris has to be with the team at least by week 8 to accrue a season, which of course will get him actually to free agency or at least push the discussion back towards the Chiefs of, hey, do you want to franchise tag him? Do you not? He's going to play at some point this season. So it is hilarious to me that Adam Schefter said with no end in sight, even though I know when it ends. It's after they play the 7th game of the season. So it's funny because you can see the posturing and the back and forth. And also, I just love the idea of there's a reason, guys. They didn't just, a lot of teams today said, look, here's the cuts, guys. Here it is. It's not even 3:00 yet, Central, which is the NFL deadline. It's we gotta put it out there.
It's like Jawan Taylor and false starts. It's more like a guideline than an actual rule.
Yeah. It's like, do we have to? I mean, okay, all right, bring them in. You wanna talk? Okay, well, look. Hey, you do you. We're gonna do us. It's just fine. We're gonna figure out the roster, and if you're not gonna be here, then you know what? Somebody's gonna get a paycheck, and that person can thank you later, I guess. But guys, all this says to me is ultimately game 1 is now really in jeopardy. This isn't just a bluff. This is a reality. And Chris is willing to miss opening night, banner ceremony, the whole country watching, Chiefs, Lions, football's back. It is the official start of fall. It's in Arrowhead Stadium. It's going to be packed. It's probably the most on-demand ticket in the Chiefs' history in that stadium. And Chris is telling you that he's willing to forego all that because he just doesn't believe he's been respected enough in the contract negotiations. So I will be surprised if he's there on Sunday, which is the team's first practice. And if he's not there Sunday, then you can pretty much scratch Thursday night with him in a Chiefs uniform.
Cool. No doubt. Yeah.
We've talked a lot this month, Seth, very rarely about Chris Jones. Where you at?
Well, I spent all of the offseason telling people I'm not worried. This is posturing. And so now, This is how it works. You got to pay the piper. People are asking me now, are you worried now, Seth? I'm like, yes. I'm worried now. I will join everyone. I've reached a point. I understand the man said week 8. I get it. That's hard for me to believe that he means it because of the implications on the franchise tag the next year. Because if the Chiefs are willing to hold out till week 8, that means they're saying, nope, this is our line in the sand, whatever. And that means they will 1,000,000% franchise tag you next year. And if you say, well, I
can confirm. Can confirm.
Oh, man, Nate.
Like, can confirm the idea that, like, if you thought, Orlando Brown was going to have it easy with a franchise tag and the idea of what that was going to look like, the understanding that I've come to know, Seth, which is great, is, yeah, you want to take it to week 8? That's fine. That actually puts us in a really good range to actually franchise tag you and still have control of how this goes if we even do want to trade you, or if you want to play on a 1-year deal that's more in line with checks notes what you make this year.
Yes.
Yep. And that's it exactly. And that's actually something I hadn't even considered until Joel Corey had a really great tweet thread that he does a great job covering that stuff. And that's where my guess is Jones and his representation, if I were a betting man, and I tell people all the time, this is business. I'm not mad at Jones. I'm not mad at the Chiefs. This is business. Both parties are looking out for their interests. Fair enough. I'm just mad. I'm not mad at anyone. I'm just mad because let me just say what Jones and his representation, they might say, sure, have your big opening night. That's a pretty well-coached and good offensive line you got there.
Yeah.
Sure, shame if Jared Goff threw for 6 touchdowns on you because you ain't got anyone to rush from the interior. Because here's the deal. Oh, this is so upsetting. Charles Omenihu is a much better pass rusher from the interior. He showed that off. I might write about that a little bit later this week. As soon as the Chiefs moved him inside in this last preseason game, he just started eating. He's a great pass rusher from the 3-tech. And maybe the Chiefs could have said, if he weren't suspended for like that whole time period, they could have said, look, man, is he only 80% of you? Yes. But is 80% of you still real good? Yeah. So we'll survive. Whereas now you don't have him either. They do not have, like, their best interior pass rusher is Tershawn Wharton. And I like Wharton, but, see, I don't even
Who's their next best interior pass rusher? Who's their next best interior pass rusher who will be on the roster in week 1? I think I know the answer.
Okay. Ooh, this is interesting because I'm not sure.
Mike Dana.
I think it's Mike Dana. Who's their second best edge rusher right now?
You're so right. I don't know why I forgot Mike Dana. Mike Dana is their best interior pass rusher without Chris
and maybe
Jones.
their second best edge right now.
Yeah.
It's the same guy. And it's Mike Dana, who we all love, but it's Mike Dana.
There's no maybe in that. He is. He's their second best as of right now, based on the way they're constructed.
He was probably their second best pass rusher last year. I like Dana. He's better off inside. And maybe if FAU can come on quick and Karlaftis can do some stuff, you can hope. But I think Jones and his reps are like, let's see how week 1 goes. And one way or another, I think you might see something get done after that happens. Because, like, let's say the Chiefs kind of roll and they actually do win. And Veach calls him up again, says, look, man, you just cost yourself $1.2 million. You cost yourself this in trade camp. Your franchise tag just got cheaper next year. Let's not do this. How about I'll offer just this much more or whatever. Or just how about you sign now? I just can't see Jones. And again, for players, one thing to keep in mind, and Nate, you'd have more to say on this than I would. If it's purely a monetary thing, him holding out until week 8 doesn't make sense. Because between the training camp fines and everything else, and then all the money he missed, and then the money he missed on the franchise tag, and how that would affect him in contract negotiations, not just with the Chiefs, but any team he was traded for, he would never make that money back, ever.
Correct.
Because now you're sitting at 15, 20 million. You just can't. But sometimes it's about more than money. And if he feels like he hasn't been respected in these negotiations, you are staring me looking at your phone, man. You are freaking me out.
Nate's eyes are darting up and down. We didn't usually have video on for times ours. Like, we just would have only audio, which is how I would have to guess when Seth wasn't listening, or when I could, hit mute on my mic and play a little Pokemon Go. We can't do that when there's video on. So
yeah.
It is nerve-wracking, Nate.
I look, I just wanted to double check a few things. I wrote it in the Athletic last week, I believe. So I just for our audience today, let's say he really does push it all the way up until week 8. Yeah, it's $9.8 million based on the game checks he would forgo and the fines he has from when the veterans were expected to report, which I believe was July 25th, up until today. I know as fans and even as us, in reporters and media, like we like to say training camp. And most of that time, when you say training camp, in parentheses, that usually means like St. Joseph. The way the league looks at it, the way the collective bargaining is put together, is training camp is from the moment you report to cut down day. So he missed all of camp from a, I guess, terminology standpoint, contractual standpoint. And that's why the team had to place him on the did not report list so that they could have a roster spot. Now, when Jones reports to the team, he will get that roster spot back. Of course, they'll have to make another transaction to move things around for the 53-man. But yeah, based on him missing every part of training camp from when he was supposed to report to now, he's cost himself already more than $2 million. It's 2.25 today, and then he will forfeit 7.58 million in weekly game checks if he misses 7 weeks.
Not to mention, part of his contract, there's a sack incentive. That's a total
correct
sack number, and I think that's over $1 million too. So
correct.
Those are the reasons I'm optimistic that he'll come in eventually. But it just a lot depends. The Chiefs may well come in and score like 65 points on the Lions in week 1. And Veach and Reed, they know another thing is that they can play with house money a little bit, knowing that they've got an offense that, we need to score 40. Okay, we'll score 40. Spags, you're kind of insane. Why don't you do some weird stuff for a bit? And again, the Amenahu suspension messes with their leverage a bit because Dana can rush well from the interior. But they had a plan here, and I'm so frustrated after watching Amenahu rush from the interior a little bit more in the final game. I want to see him and Jones next to each other so bad, and they're taking it from me.
You'll be able to see that when they both play their first game in week 8. Yeah.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. What are you talking about? What?
There's going to be like this line in future years where people are going to look at the Chiefs season statistics and be like, well, DVOA the weeks 1 through 7. Look, what happened? Suddenly they average 5 sacks per game the rest of the year, which, is getting out there. But I don't know. So I don't think he'll wait out that whole time. I think, Nate, you made a good point. There's posturing going on here. Someone's going to maybe hopefully blink. I don't think it'll be the Chiefs. I really don't. But we'll see.
Here's I got one thing kind of from each of the things you guys each focused on. One is that I do have a direction to point your anger into, because I just have really sort of been marinating on this one for a while, and it really annoys me. The quicker thing is that, Nate, you're talking about all those fine numbers and everything that you laid out. That's monopoly money when you have a new contract coming. Right. That's cash when you don't. Like a $3 million fine for Chris Jones would definitely give him a mobile notification. I think I have that notification set for anything over $5. I bet he has it set for anything over $900,000 or so, right? But if it's, hey man, listen, Chris, listen. This is my agent voice. Listen, Chris, you're gonna get like 90 million guaranteed here in like a couple of months. You just don't even worry. This is not real money. This is money that we're going to get you so much more money than this money. This money is the seed that you plant to grow a money tree. So just hold on for a little bit and it'll be fine. Well, now there's no money tree. Now it's, hey, Chris, don't forget to cut down this tree on your way in. See ya. It's like, wait a second. I thought that this was the whole logic of all of that, which the common ground here is I don't know the Katz brothers. I don't text the Katz brothers. I don't know what their deal is. I don't know who their people. I don't know.
What's their deal, man?
I don't know what their deal
is. Look, they just wanted a nice platter from Joe's Kansas City. They wanted to have a nice chit chat. And then look, any updates? Anything?
We saw Chris Jones out in public with the team twice this year. Once at the White House, which obviously they couldn't do after the COVID Super Bowl. And so I imagine he said, I'm going to the White House. And the other time was at the ESPYs. When you saw them cut to the crowd to show the Chiefs winning the award for the best team or whatever, you saw Patrick Mahomes. I think Brittany was there, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, both Katz brothers. I'm trying to remember the rest of the Chiefs players that were there. They're both in the shot, right? One of them is next to Chris Jones. The other one's like a few seats down. Here's where I'm at. Again, I don't know how they actually operate. Maybe they're the best agents in the game. I don't know. Their agent list is a bunch of dudes and Chris Jones, but maybe they're
guys and Chris
bunch
Jones.
Of guys. Yeah, thank you.
A bunch of guys. They got one dude.
So my request, if I was Brett Veach, and this could also be partially on the Chiefs too, but when we start this negotiation in late February, early March, early April, when we're beginning to have like the conversation about the terms at hand here, you got to know that you're within the ballpark of each other, right?
Right.
Because otherwise, look, man, here's a guy I'm not a huge fan of the way he operates, but I'm going to use him as a good example now. Drew Rosenhaus, point A to point B, whatever, figured out we're going to get Tyreek Hill out of here. We're going to get him to Miami. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to cause our little private mess at a time when the Chiefs would have a chance to move Tyreek Hill. We're going to make sure that the Jets are in the mix just to make sure the Chiefs could get a return here. If it's Miami and only Miami to Tyreek Hill, we don't need the Jets to know that, and we don't need the rest of the league to know that. Let's drive that price up. So we're going to get a return for the Chiefs. We're going to ship off the guy who has been a cornerstone of this dynasty. They're going to shock the world in like 2 hours from exploring trades to gone. We're going to make all that happen before the NFL draft. Because why else would the Chiefs do that? If you're the Katz brothers and you think, hey, Chris, we just talked to Veach and them. The draft's in a month here. We just talked to them, and it seems like, look, we're going to get you that Aaron Donald money one way or the other. Quentin Williams, who gives a bleep? They'll figure that out. We're starting with Aaron Donald and working backwards and not by very much. If that's where you're at, say that in April and get moved then. The way the faces Nate is making is also causing me alarm. Because this is just me thinking about what could have happened. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Nate's moving in a way that makes me think I'm doing okay.
I want to see Nate's continued face as I say another counterpoint side of it so we can be mad at everyone. If you're the team.
Yes, this is still true.
If you're the team, the time to have this conversation about how far apart you are is also before the draft. 100%. When you can get an unbelievable return. Or, I don't know, when someone like Hargrave was signed for $13 million a year, who, while not as good as Jones, can do a passable Jones impression for a couple of years. When you've got guys like DeForest Buckner who are in the final years of contracts, or who's that defensive tackle down in Miami who's in the final year's deal? I can't remember.
Wilkins today, they said, is not getting a deal done.
Yeah, who's an absolute stud, by the way. If you know it's going to go this route, the time to take action is then, not, July. And that, yes. I'm frustrated with everyone. Nate, you've made so many faces. Can you tell the people anything?
I'm going to interrupt Nate before he gives us the actual answer. I also would be just as mad at the Chiefs if it's the Chiefs' fault for doing that. If they said in April, yeah, we'll figure it out, and they said we're going to get him at $25 million, don't sweat it, and they were calling a bluff. If that's the case, you called a bad bluff. And it wasn't a bluff. You're looking at aces. Nate, what actually happened? Who should I be mad at?
Okay, I'm going to try to break this down as best I can.
The Chiefs have done this before. I gave you an example of it working with the Chiefs. I have no example of his representation facilitating a move like that because it's new to them. So.
Correct. So I'm gonna go through this as quickly as I can, ladies and gentlemen. It's different when you draft a player and you see that player develop and you see that player get to a point in his career where he literally brought you to the Super Bowl. The more I think about what Chris did last season, in particular in the AFC Championship game, that might be the apex moment in his career, because defensively he helped win them a game that a year ago he had opportunities to help them win, and he didn't. You know, obviously people remember him missing the two opportunities to sack Joe Burrow, one critically in the fourth quarter of that AFC Championship game. So with everything that's happened, I think the Chiefs want to keep Chris Jones. They have been both public and within the organization pretty set on keeping him because they know how valuable he is, and the fact that he pressures offenses in a way that is different than Nick Bosa. And to some degree, you could say that is a commodity that is just as valuable, even though I think Nick Bosa is the most terrifying player, not named Micah Parsons, in the league. So it's okay, Chris, if you're like third or fourth on that list. You know, who knows what's going to happen with TJ Watt this year if he stays healthy. My goodness. So there are more people on the edge who can do that at a high level than there are people in the interior that can do what Chris does. Mm-hmm. They obviously understand that. They gave him the entire defense last year. They said, hey, man, we're going to build everything around you. We got Joe Cullen. You know, Frank's going to come back, and he's obviously remotivated. And this is all designed for you to lead the defense. And he did that in a way that is truly impressive and commendable given what he wanted 2 years previously, which was that specific role. Right. Now, Chris has made it pretty public that he wants to be a Chief. I honestly believe him. I believe that to be genuine. I think he understands what the fan base does, what it means to play alongside, you know, Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, and obviously be coached by Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo. This is a thing where, from his viewpoint, he really believes he's better than Aaron Donald. Like, he believes that. And statistically, last year he was. And as much as the Chiefs say that contract is an outlier, which technically it is, technically it's a real contract that exists. So I know people have asked on the chat, how do you see the difference? How do you see the gap? It's been hard to pin that down. I don't know if any reporters have truly given where the actual gap is. My best guess right now is somewhere between 29 million and 25.5, because I believe Quentin Williams is at 24 a year. Mm-hmm. So you could say, well, based on principle, Chris, if he wants to be the second highest paid defensive tackle, that gets you at 25 automatically. So you're sort of building from there in terms of the negotiation. And then, of course, in Chris's mind, he believes $30 million means I'm in line with Aaron Donald. I am in line with Micah Parsons, whatever the world he's going to get. I'm in line with what Nick Bosa is going to get, which will be more than Chris Jones. I think Chiefs fans should understand that too. Whatever Chris gets, Nick Bosa's getting dog money. Like Nick Bosa gonna break the actual bank, y'all. It's going to be incredible. And they just traded Trey Lance. What are they doing? This is so wild. So wild. Thank God Brock Purdy is a 7th-round pick. Hallelujah. Woo!
Tommy John. 7th-round pick with Tommy John. What are we doing?
We can pay Nick Bosa all the money, dog. He our quarterback, not that dude over there. He a quarterback. He's so good. The problem is the Chiefs got the best quarterback in the league and the best tight end in the league and perhaps the best coach in the league. And they all ain't making the highest paid salaries amongst their peers. So I think the range is 29 million point 25.5, somewhere in there. I think if you get to 29 after 2 weeks, great. Like, shake Chris's hand, congratulate him, congratulate his owners. They did a marvelous job, because everybody else, whether it's Jeffrey Simmons or Quentin Williams, they've really all gone to just one over, just slightly over the next guy. Whereas, again, from a posturing standpoint, the Katz brothers could say, hey, we got you 28-5. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Hey, and we made them miss a game. We made them feel that. We made them feel that what they didn't want to feel, baby. We made them feel something they didn't want to feel. And then they came back to us and said 28.5. Or, I don't know. We asked for 30. They didn't say 30. And now it's 26. And it's not going to change. And we're only going to forgo more checks. And we're only going to forgo, and we got to pay that fine. Like, by the way, that fine does not get absorbed with the new contract. I need to say that every time we talk about this. It does. He has to give that money back. That's why the CBA, from a player's standpoint, is not great, Bob. It's not great. Now you know why Jonathan Taylor's at camp. Now you know why Jonathan Taylor had to go to Jim Irsay's bus and say, please get me out of here. And then Jim Irsay was like, based on the CBA, dog, you's here. Like, so it's wild how the business works. So from the Katz brothers, it's a calculated gamble. I understand it. There's a statistical argument to say that Chris Jones is a $30 million player based on production. But also, what if you don't have to pay him $30 million? Like, it's tough, guys. It's really tough. And of course, we don't say his name enough. The last person I'll say is Clark Hunt. What does Clark Hunt want? That has been hard to pin down. Clark Hunt wants to win Super Bowls. Clark Hunt is obviously one of the most respected owners in the league, but ultimately he's the one that authorizes these decisions. He's the one that obviously actually writes the check, puts it in escrow, and hope that Chris Jones, who's going from 29 to 30, can have similar production as age 30, age 31, and age 32. Whatever deal happens, if it does happen, you're really talking about this season and the next 2 years. I don't know if Chris would ever touch the third year of the deal or the fourth year of the deal if it comes to that. But hopefully the Chiefs view Chris Jones very differently than they view Tyreek Hill, even though you explained that so well, Josh, as to why it made sense for all parties involved that, hey, if you really want to be the highest paid receiver, which he did, we can't live with that. So already Clark Hunt has put a line. It is a philosophical, if you not Patrick Mahomes, the line probably not going to change on that. And if Devontae Adams shows you what is possible, hey man, go out there and see if you can get it. But quietly, see if you can get it out there. He wouldn't got it. His agent put on a masterclass, as they would say. But with Clark Hunt, how much does he want to get this done? And does Clark Hunt need to see it for himself? This is what my defense looks without its best player. And that's a factor that is really, really fascinating. And the Chiefs are at a point where they can say, we're about winning, but we're about doing it the correct way. And from a salary cap standpoint, are you willing to make a financial compromise? That's what I've said multiple times. The organization is going to ask any player, are you willing to make a financial compromise to help us win the Super Bowl, to help us be a dynasty, and to, hey, you said it. You said it. Not me. Your agent didn't say it. Joe Corey was like, why you say it? But you said it. You said, hey, dog, I want to play. I ain't going to play for no other team, which, hey, I respect it. But also, you're on the record and you said it. So about that financial compromise.
I'm going to go ahead and see. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of Michael Bay because he seems to be the only guy who's actually seen Chris Jones in person over the last month or so. So I'm going to blow some things up and try to get a hold of him, see if I get any intel. If not, we'll take a quick timeout, come back, talk about the roster cuts as the Chiefs are down to their initial 53. Also, a trade, actually 2 trades, 1 in, 1 out today for the Chiefs, and some real surprises on the 53. We'll talk about that next.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
I've asked in our private chat here amongst the 3 of us plus Tucker, who's off camera but in there. The most perfect way we could kick this off was me looking at the clock and then messaging Tucker. Hey, Tuck, you had a personal hard out time today? Because I think we got some more show to do. We started a couple minutes late. We're going to go a couple minutes long. And welcome to Only Weird Games. Let's talk about the cutdowns. The big move of the day, this morning, first thing, Ihmir Smith-Marsette traded to the Carolina Panthers for a conditional 2025 7th-round pick swap. I joked on 810 today. All right, everybody, what would you trade? What would you do a 7th-round 2025 conditional pick swap for? You kind of took the air out of my sails on this one earlier, Seth, but I would trade my pancreas for a 7th-round 2025 conditional pick swap. This is not doing that much for me. But happy that Smith-Marsette got to turn a great preseason into a more secure roster spot. Anything more than that from either of you there before we get into the next move?
It's nice to see them put to bed the not. Is it what I would have done? No. But as someone who has been saying through not gritted teeth, but through softly resigned teeth, soft teeth. I have scurvy, so diabetes and scurvy, only weird games. Like I've just been saying, like people are like, well, because like very early in the offseason, people were like, well, maybe this guy instead of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I was like, no. Let's all just calm down. But then it became about Justin Watson, who's kind of the fan base's new punching bag.
Yeah.
It's not
little offensive Dan Sorensen going on with Justin Watson right now.
Yeah, like Justin Watson is not on the sidelines like, coach, you got to put me in. I am so much better than these guys. You got to run me out for 50 snaps a game, coach. He didn't do that. Justin Watson is standing there, an incredible athlete by any reasonable standard, with his helmet in his hand. And Andy Reid's like, hey, I need you to run a crosser. You're going to be the pick guy. So Travis Kelce can get just a tiny step on Derwin James and go win a game against the Chargers. And Watson's like, oh, you want me to be exactly 7.5 yards down the field before I plant and get exactly that right spot? I will run that exact route and nothing else. And that's all the man's doing. Don't hate on him for that. That's not his fault.
Right.
Like, he's just doing what he's told. But had I been the one pulling the strings, I probably would have said, this guy looks a little bit more capable of winning against man coverage, because that's not something Justin Watson does. And so it's nice to see that kind of put to bed, but it's still very frustrating to occasionally see the desire for a guy that plays the position the way you envision it should be played, making it over the guy that seems to be clearly more talented. And that is a thing that both Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo do on occasion. So that's my thoughts on that. Oh, and Darian Kinnard got cut.
Which is really surprising. But look, for me, like the best part about it is they basically, I think they did Amir a favor because he wasn't going to make the team. And I think he probably knew that Saturday when he talked to us in the locker room, but he's going to catch some passes from Chase Young. Like, that's going to happen. Yeah. So, I mean, not Chase Young.
I was going to say, I got so up in the air. I was going to try to make a joke about Washington instead. I was like, man,
Young Bryce
from Chase Young.
Yeah. Young Bryce.
Man, Eric Bieniemy does have his hands full over there.
Bryce, please stay healthy. But yeah, he's going to catch passes. He's going to play. He's going to actually catch some passes from Bryce Young. So the idea that Adam Thielen was like, hey.
I actually have Bryce Young's personal sword right here.
Come on. Come on. That's unnecessary. The audio only listeners, that's a letter opener, Seth?
It's a letter. It's a Japanese letter opener. It's a wonderful gift from my wonderful grandmother.
Yes.
It's from your grandma.
Yeah. And an opportunity for a really cheap joke at the expense of a guy who's a million times the athlete and physical specimen that I will ever be.
The best thing is he's 4 inches taller than Seth, too.
Okay. Hang on. Hang on.
So you don't like it.
What are you doing? You know I can only dish it out.
So they looked at their surplus and they said, look, man, make some calls, dog. Like, call anybody in the league. You got a D tackle? Any D tackle. Hell, he can even be on the Raiders. I'm sorry, what? The Raiders called us back? Really? Word? I guess. I mean, hey, you got the college tape.
Neil Farrell.
What was our grade? What was our grade on him?
Will Farrell from LSU. Neil Farrell. Farrell? The Chiefs traded for Farrell, everybody. Not Cleveland. That would be weird.
You know how wild it's gotta be to be like, not only are they our arch rival, they don't want him on their team and will gladly take him.
It's the Raiders special, dude. It's the most Raidery thing ever. It's like, oh, we finally got away from Gruden and McMahon. We've given the reins to Josh McDaniels. This will work out.
So we about to find out who can coach. Because I know Joe Cullen can coach. I don't know what they doing in Las Vegas, but I mean, I do know Joe Cullen and Steve Spagnuolo can coach. So it'll be fascinating to see, I don't think Neil's going to be necessarily available for Thursday's game, of course, against the Lions, but he might be available in week 2 because you get that 9-day because you play the early game, you get, what they call a mini bye in a sense. You don't play that Sunday, but you do get 9 days to sort of prepare for your week 2 opponent in Jacksonville. And so I know Chiefs fans are kind of heartbroken that, Amir didn't make the roster, even though, he made the preseason really entertaining and enjoyable because he worked. He worked to put himself in as best a position as possible.
Yep.
I mean, you know how hard it is to run routes and be really good. against NFL level DBs and then catching passes from, Shane Buechele, Blaine Gabbert, and Patrick Mahomes. It's, he succeeded at a task that is really hard to accomplish. And now he's going to be on our team's roster for what I would assume for 17 games. I have no reason as to why Carolina would only retain him for like a month.
They have like 3 other receivers there, so I assume that's like Bryce Young's actually their 5th string receiver as well. And so
I mean, he got some wiggle to him, I'm sure, but the fun part is these two things are clearly tied together, right? You don't trade Amir unless you are certain that roster spot is coming back and that pick. I mean, the pick is basically the same value. Like, if we actually get a 7th round pick back from the Panthers, and again, we don't know the details yet, then our 6th round pick in our estimation is going to be towards the second half of that draft. So in essence, you could say it's a 7th round pick. So, you ensure that you keep the same amount of picks, and also you give one of your surpluses away for somebody who is a talented player on a rookie contract who's at the age of 25 or 24, 25. And, hopefully in a year or two with this coaching staff, he can progress to be a serviceable, player at the position. Because again, we don't know if Chris Jones is going to be on the team in 2 years. That's kind of up in the air, but you do know that Neil Farrell, if everything goes right, will at least be part of the plan on the defensive line.
That is his name, Neil.
I don't know why you grabbed the legal pad. Yeah, it really is. And also kind of interesting this year. Now they've spent 2 6th round picks on enormous sort of one tech run stuffing defensive tackles this year. With Keandre Coburn in the draft, and now Farrell after the draft, but only 1 year, like you mentioned, only 1 year further into his rookie deal. So it's not like trading a 6th for a guy with 1 year left, which I kind of like. That makes sense. Do you have anything else on Neil, Seth?
It's a little interesting to me that they if they're going to utilize, they're going to have 3 basically nose tackles on the roster.
And Danny Shelton on the practice squad, unless he gets a better offer.
Yeah, like I don't know how much. I just don't know how much. I'm sorry, put on Seth forgot he's not the Flash for a second. I can't do this live. I'm gonna keep laughing.
We're gonna rotate. We're gonna rotate those. Hit them in. Rotate them in.
I got caught in the rain the other day when I was walking back from a lunch with some other folk in town here. Some of the townsfolk and I in rural Minnesota were having lunch and discussing how we killed a Frankenstein monster. and so we I got caught in the rain, and so I ran back to the office because I hate the rain. I don't like being in the rain.
You hate the rain more than you hate running?
Oh, man. Well, now I'm back and forth because running in flip-flops, shout out to you, Glenn, if you're still here. My knees I've hurt ever since. And so, I got back to the office and I'm and it was just so bad. So it makes sense. You want to rotate these guys in. But I hope Dana's ready to get rotated into the interior. Because, sometimes teams pass the ball also, though, on 1st and 2nd down, too, guys. Yeah. And so the whole thing, I don't know. It's just they've got a lot of nose tackles. It's just so funny to be like, hey, we're going to keep 7 wide receivers for the first time. And it's like, wow, we're kind of changing up the Andy Reid roster. Well, how many offensive linemen, defensive linemen? 10. What are you, insane? You think we're going to change the number of offensive or defensive linemen we have? What kind of absurdity is this? And so I don't know. Nate, you were right, though. And, oh, man, poor Tucker. And, Nate, you were right, though, when you said right when camp began, there are not a lot of surprises here on this list. Kinnard not being on the list is a surprise.
Let's talk about it. So, Darian Kinnard waived today by the Chiefs. I was certainly surprised by that also.
Caliendo probably took a spot.
I guess. I mean, he's more experienced at the position. No, I'm dead serious. I guess. I mean, sure. It's also a smaller risk in compared to the big risk with Chris, but it's a small risk.
Sorry, does Caliendo can he play center also? I honestly feel like they may have been talking about that in the lab, which our esteemed colleagues, because since Allegretti is a little banged up at the moment.
Right. So you keep Caliendo for that reason too, but they cut Austin Ryder today with the understanding that you, a veteran, stay off the phone. Don't answer a call. I don't care if they lost 7 offensive linemen today. Don't answer the phone. See you back here on Thursday or whatever from a calendar standpoint. And so he can be your backup center if you need to elevate and activate him on game day as well. It's a smaller calculation with Darian Kinnard because I thought he actually played a lot better as a guard than as a tackle, obviously. And so he has shown some versatility, some flexibility, which is what the Chiefs prefer. The issue now is because you are literally the Super Bowl champs, you're 32 on the waiver wire, which means, are you sure? No, dog. Like that. That's why I thought he was going to be on the roster, because he actually showed improvement from year 1 to year 2. He can play guard. You probably need another guard who can, do the Andrew Wiley, I'll kick out the tackle in an absolute hailstorm of a situation. But also, like, are you sure 31 other teams are going to be like, nah, we're good? Or is his agent going to tell 31 teams, nah, my guy's never played an NFL snap. We're good. Like, we're just going to come back on the Chiefs practice squad.
It's odd, especially like in the world where everyone reverts to college scouting details on the guy they haven't seen play in the pro level. Like, it sounded like more teams liked Kinnard as a guard, which is what he is now. And at the time, the Chiefs were kind of like, yeah, we're going to give him a shot to tackle. And that did. And it didn't work. That was guard again. Everybody was right. But
did somebody say Leo Chanel at 3-tech? Give it to me.
Yes,
Look,
I'm in.
Look,
Leo, you go forward here, all right?
Yeah. Leo, how much you weigh these days? 255?
Start eating.
Hey, shoot that gap, son.
Start eating, buddy.
All we're asking is to shoot the gap. Shoot it.
Yep.
Shoot the gap. I don't even care if you're offsides. Shoot the gap.
Yeah. Make them regret everything. I'm trying to look. I do think they might do some goofy things with the linebackers this year. They clearly are trying to find a role for Chanel. I know they're running some of that 3-3-5. But I still think that, just like on a side note with everything, and this is apropos of nothing, I figured out Drew Tranquil, he is a Steve Spagnuolo thirst trap. He's not going to be able to stay away.
How do you even know what that means, Seth?
He's so shut up. I can't explain it. I can just say it. I can't explain it. You know that. And so I do think they're going to find interesting ways to try to get multiple guys in the field. The ideas that fans have with Leo Chanel, I like him as much as the next guy. He made a couple nice plays in the Super Bowl if he is moving straight forward. But I've had people suggest him at edge. I've seen 3-tech before. I had someone ask me, and this was months ago, if he could do like the hybrid safety thing. And I said, no, because he'd have to cover people in space.
That's why I like the 3-tech thing. That's galaxy brain is no backpedaling, no covering. Just go get ball.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw him putting Danny Shelton back in coverage. Maybe that's why he didn't make the final roster. It's like he doesn't seem too comfortable passing off receivers and zone guys.
How did he not see that crossing route? Jeez.
Dude, you got to feel that.
No. But Tranquil is a guy that I would be shocked if they don't figure out a way to get him on the field a ton. But here's the problem. It's going to directly conflict with Spag's undeniable love, adoration, borderline exaltation of Nicholas Bolton. I don't think his full name is Nicholas, but it's funner to say. Also, you know what? How do you say Perrine?
Pirine.
Is that actually correct then? Because
he's cousins with Samaje Pirine.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We're doing this still. That's great.
Yeah.
Sorry. Knowing the facts about an answer, knowing the answer to a question you asked. I'm sorry. I said I'll never
how
do
to
it again.
pronounce names. It's mean, and it makes me feel bad.
Hey, Nicholas Bolton on Pro Football Reference. No middle name listed, but Nicholas it says.
Well, maybe Olas is his middle name.
I don't think it is. All one word. Wikipedia also just says Nicholas Bolton. I'll go find like a Mizzou page at some point. I'll try to get to the bottom of what Nick Bolton's middle name is.
Leonardo. Apparently, it's Leonardo Chanel too. Like everyone, William Gay. They're all so much more. There's so
Andrew Tranquil.
Andrew Tranquil. Man, thank you, Kyle Henning, for recognizing that was a terrific dad joke. I thought. I am upset Pirine didn't make the final roster. I understand that was almost always going to happen. People thought that they would maybe go with Clyde.
Can I please no ball for once? Because
Yes.
I tweeted something like 2 days ago that came true today, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about it and if it will even stay there, because really we don't know. But with all of the conversation about 7 receivers, 4 tight ends, 4 running backs, 3 quarterbacks, I wasn't even including the quarterbacks on this, which I still need to figure out what the bleep is going on there. But I was looking back at, there was a great chart tweeted out by Joseph Hefner, who does work at KCSN, because everybody does. This is going to be so easy to credit people on this show from now on. My colleague, whoever.
That's a sack by George Karlaftis of KCSN.
His celebration now, he just pulls a microphone out of his pocket and starts talking. But he tweeted out like Andy Reid rosters over the years and all of the numbers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And what I saw there was what I am calling 13 flex spots. Running back, wide receiver, fullback, tight end. If you can get that to 13 of those 4 groups, you're pretty much good. That's kind of what it averaged out to for the most part. And so 7 wide receivers, 3 tight ends with no Jody Fortson, which is a horrible, horrible loss. The Times Ours was a big Jody Fortson show. Now only Weird Games exist in a world without him. That's going to be hard to deal with. And then if you only
a Justin Ross show.
I think it might be a Justin Ross show now, actually. I don't know if you were on the bandwagon, but I was.
Sky Moore? Well, we'll figure it out. Please keep going.
Yeah, let's feel it out. No, we can feel it out. Majestic White Horse with diabetes. That's the show past. So I don't know. But then 3 running backs gets it done. You're not going to activate 4 running backs on game day anyway. The Chiefs didn't do that last year, even when they carried 4. And Deneric Prince had a disappointing back half of his preseason and back half of camp. It just didn't have all the hype of earlier on in camp. Right. And I like P. Ryan. I thought he did some really good stuff, especially in that 3rd preseason game. Seeing him get around the edge the way that he did, that's a real trait. That was something. Mm-hmm. But he's bounced around. Yep. These guys can both be on your practice squad, and if one of the main 3 is injured at any point, practice squad elevation, put on your full 53, depending on what the injury is, whatever. That made sense to me. So I think that 13 total between running backs 3, tight ends 3, fullback 0, wide receivers 7, you're going to have at least 1 healthy scratch from that group, but maybe only 1 healthy scratch from that group, depending on how many receivers they activate.
Yeah. And for all the discussion about Matt Bushman over Blake Bell, that 3rd tight end needs to block.
Yeah.
And so the only person you can trust in that situation who has NFL level experience and can move bodies is Blake Bell. And of course, if Blake Bell's not on the roster, who's going to do quarterback sneaks? I mean, who's going to do this? I mean, they've done it a few times with Noah Gray, but Noah Gray is the funny. Noah Gray is now the true tight end. Blake Bell is the blocking tight end, and Travis Kelce is pass catcher 1.
Mm-hmm.
That's the new phrase we need to get used to. Like, there is a pass catcher 1. I still think Kadarius Toney is receiver 1 whenever he returns. There's traditional tight end Noah Gray, the most majestic white horse on a sandy beach. And then there's Blake Bell, who moves bodies, who prevents the guy in front of him from making the tackle. And so we'll see if anybody picks up Matt Bushman. I think he is an interesting prospect on the waiver wire, of course. But yeah, it's understandable how they made that decision to keep 3 tight ends, even though they went into training camp believing that they were going to have 4 on the roster.
And then Shane Buechele, right now, this roster has 2 quarterbacks on it. The 3rd quarterback rule, 3rd game day free activation is really incentivizing keeping 3 quarterbacks. I'm curious where you guys think this lands, what you've heard. My one quick thing is that I do feel like, once again, as I know preseason ball, Kevin Cobb formula was fully in progress for Shane Buechele, because if they waived him today, getting the start, getting the reps over Gabbert, getting the post-game press conferences, that was somebody, hey, Arizona, do you need a quarterback? And
Correct.
And here we are. I really wanted it to be Washington. I thought Eric Bieniemy swooping in, taking Shane Buechele, and then, making that offense look competent. That was my favorite sort of headcanon at that point. But Kevin Cobb protocol, maybe Buechele played his way out of getting traded in the third preseason game. I don't know. What's the quarterback situation, Nate?
Yeah. So it's one of those unfortunate moments where publicly we all saw what happened. I think Shane Buechele is talented. Man, there were points in that second preseason game against the Cardinals where I thought for sure that he was a lock. I think it's instructive that Andy Reid gave him the opportunity to start Saturday's preseason finale. Unfortunately, it did not go well. Even with, I thought based on Chris Jones not reporting that might actually be the roster spot that you could easily carry over to the offense. I thought there'd be more offensive players on the initial roster than the defensive players just because of the quarterback situation and obviously what's going to happen with Kadarius Toney, who more than likely will, unless proven otherwise, he's more than likely probably going to go on short-term IR. But obviously you have to carry him for the initial roster. So it's unfortunate that a guy, in my opinion, was very close to making the roster to see it go the other way. His contract wasn't guaranteed to my understanding, and Blaine Gabbert's contract is guaranteed. And of course, we have Andy Reid's track record of obviously valuing veteran quarterbacks who know who they are, who know the system, who know what it's like to be preparing as the backup and preparing as a starter, and can obviously keep the offense afloat instead of a guy who is, all credit to Shane, he has yet to play an NFL down. So obviously there's a little bit of mystery there.
There were a few things that happened also when, Shane got a number more of those kind of first team reps. I don't know if his cadence and his kind of, I guess you'd call it chemistry with his offensive line really improved over the course of 3 games. That's problematic. Mitch Schwartz tweeted about this, talking about probably one of the worst losses I've ever seen Juwan Taylor take. Za'Darius Smith, who, by the way, was traded for like a pack of gum earlier this offseason and is like, a relative almost elite pass rusher. But whatever, I guess. We don't need that guy. I mean, anyway, I'm still mad about that. I'm still mad.
Seems like it.
Still mad. It's like, oh, well, I don't know. Does Steve Spagnuolo ever use guys with a lot of power on the defensive end spot who have some length and generally win and are strong against the run? I don't think so. Anyway.
Really a day 3 pick?
Yeah.
2025, 6th and 7th.
Anyway, it would have been nice if you were going to have your all-world pass rusher not around and you needed a dude.
I'm not only mad at the Cats brothers. The Chiefs also could have made better moves with all of this.
But anyway,
and look, the Chiefs, for all intents and purposes, the Chiefs. I think it's probably fair to say the Chiefs probably thought this was not going to go the way it's gone.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, sorry. It was 2 5th-round picks in 24 and 25, and they got Za'Darius Smith a 6th and a 7th. So it was trading back in 2 rounds, basically.
I could picture it since we're if you kind of view this the worst version of everyone's point of view, like, hey, Chris Jones maybe sees himself certainly wants a certain amount of money. We can also see the Chiefs being like, well, I see no reason why this human wouldn't take less money for the privilege of paying for us. Indubitably, let's offer him this. I bet we don't need to prepare for this eventuality. That's how they talk behind closed doors, by the way. I'll just say my thing and then I'll be done because poor Tucker, this is his first experience with this and none of us warned him.
Yeah, this is what as you were going indubitably, and I was looking over and going, oh, Tucker asked how much longer this show goes for.
Guys, for the love of God, will you please stop? I feel like I'm being held hostage. That's interesting. He did not type that, by the way. That would have been hilarious, though. Anyway, so the thing with Buechele, so Juwan Taylor took a really tough loss to Za'Darius Smith, who's an excellent edge rusher, rushes with power. Taylor struggles with that a lot more than speed, although he doesn't really struggle with power rushers either, but it's not as much his forte. Like Hassan Reddick gave him more problems than Micah Parsons, although Micah Parsons has a lot of power too. That dude's just a freak. But what you saw, Juwan Taylor, and I wrote about this on the Chief of the North, his first step is like a weaponized thing. He is unbelievably good at getting at the snap count where he gets like a 1.5 yard head start. So then he has this, he's got a head start on him. He can be square. He can be set. He's ready to land the first punch. He's got terrific length, got good size, all that stuff. He did not have that. He was slow off the line multiple times with Buechele. You didn't see it as many times with Gabbert. And so there's just this experience thing that is just hard to overcome. I mean, did you guys see the when Tua released the helmet head cam thing and what quarterbacks are looking at just in practice? This stuff is impossible, man. So I kind of like Shane, when things broke down, he made some plays. But you got to assume the guy you want to step in, you got to assume Reed's plan isn't, well, why don't we just have someone come in and run around and throw the ball? And I think Gabbert's clearly a better fit for that. He pretty clearly outplayed Buechele over these last couple of weeks. And so I think it was always going to go that route. But it just, those little details like snap counts, cadence and stuff, I mean, that just matters. And I hope he catches on, whether he comes back to the practice squad or – I don't know. Maybe the Cardinals will play him and start him. Gannon won't tell us, so who knows? That's just an interesting tidbit that I thought is kind of interesting for people to know with like that one step further and what really matters in terms of making it as the backup quarterback, because that matters.
Right. Correct.
This isn't the same thing as you sort of leading us, Nate, in the beginning of the show to so what's the first name we're gonna say? Who are the first players we're gonna talk about? But I do like the idea of being able to look back and say, man. Remember that first episode of Only Weird Games? Talked about Chris Jones for a while, the roster cut down, spent quite a bit of time on some running backs and Buechele and Kinnard. And then Josh asked about Carson Wentz. Because here,
what are you doing?
Well, because there was a couple days ago. Yeah, Seth, I'll see you. I'll talk to you later.
I'll be here a minute.
You're going to have some, what is that? Some peanuts?
Some honey roasted peanuts.
Honey roasted peanuts. Well, while Seth eats some nuts on the internet, Nate,
come on,
Nate,
we're live, guys. Yeah.
Fowler said a couple days ago that the Chiefs had been in contact with Carson Wentz, and they talked this offseason that the door's open. Is that? I haven't asked anybody. This is the first time I've said any of this out loud. Is that maybe? No, but unless.
Look, it's so funny.
Lady.
It's so funny because I remember being at the combine and talking to a multitude of folks, and I said, look, the Chiefs, I know the Chiefs like Shane Buechele. I know Chris Oladuke is going to be on the roster, but who's going to be that veteran who can push Buechele or Buechele can push the veteran? Who's going to be that guy? And I put in the article in The Athletic a pretty substantial list, and I thought, hey, Teddy Bridgewater kind of sounds interesting. Fascinatingly enough, he is the Lions' backup quarterback. Hey, what about Chase Daniel? Chase Daniel still on around? No, he works for The Athletic. Shout out to him. Hey, what about? It's funny. I did not include Blaine Gabbert because he was not a part of the discussion that I had, or the people that I had talked to, I should say. But Carson Wentz was in that group, so it is funny that I named Carson Wentz and I said, man, that'd be an interesting story. To just keep in mind, because I think it's weird that Chad Henne puts Blaine Gabbert in a very interesting situation. Like, hey, man, if you ever step on the field, we think you're leading us to victories in January. It's like the most weird distinction of a backup quarterback situation. Well, you know what Chad did? He only ran like his life depended on it on third and whatever it was. And then Andy let him throw the ball on 4th and 1. So what you gonna do about it, Blaine? Blaine?
What an act to follow. That's not even fair.
When you step on the field, Blaine, I expect us to go 98 yards down the field. It's so weird. So I thought if it was Carson Wentz, he'd be in a similar situation given his winding road of a career. But yeah, I'm sure that there's truth to it. Because I thought that it's really interesting that, again, Andy Reid gave Shane Buechele a shot on Saturday. And if Shane Buechele had passed that test, he was going to be the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
And in light of that, you working out? That's what that call a lot of times is. Hey, you working out? How you feeling? What if it was to go a certain direction? Again, Blaine Gabbert's contract is guaranteed. Again, I don't think Clark Hunt is going to be comfortable saying, all right, cut this guy to make sure that, I got to pay somebody else, at a backup position. You can the internet's obviously real. You can go look at what Chad Henne made year over year as the backup quarterback. So they have, again, a precedent set in. So look, I think Blaine Gabbert by default won the backup quarterback spot. Yeah. But, if something were to happen, it's just a case where you could say, hey, we checked in after the season. We checked in with the combine. We checked in before the draft. Obviously, we brought Blaine in. We feel like Blaine is a capable backup. I think Blaine will bring a lot of value to the quarterback room because of the guy he was backing up previously, which, of course, is Tom Brady, which Carson Wentz does not have. So, and you have to remember too, this is a human sport. This is a relationship-based sport. Blaine Gabbert knows Justin Watson, guys. Blaine Gabbert knows Donovan Smith. Blaine Gabbert knows Tom Brady. Those are real relationships that matter, that can help a team win when you have built-in relationships from previous experiences. So, if something were to happen with the quarterback situation moving forward that we can't necessarily see now, yeah, maybe Carson Wentz does come into the mix. But it just makes sense because based on what happened against the Browns, yeah, NFL teams have to kick the tires. NFL teams have to make phone calls. So how does he feel? How's he doing? Hey, if something happens, keep us in mind, and we'll do the same for you.
Nobody can ever say we didn't spend 5 minutes of this show talking about Carson Wentz and the offseason between the Chiefs winning one Super Bowl and maybe winning another. I mean, this is welcome to Only Weird Games, everybody. I think here's how we get out of the show here. I don't want to change the ending act from one name of the podcast to now Only Weird Games. So I think Nate still needs to, we can give him the time, and then Seth, we can watch Nate wrap up the show.
Which is weird.
See the wheels turning.
Yeah.
But I will say again, you can read Seth's work on the Chief of the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com. Nate is still at The Athletic, theathletic.com. I'm all over Sports Radio 810, WHB, Arrowhead Report. You can follow all of us on socials, the usual same places, at by Nate Taylor, at Real MN Chiefs Fan, at JB Brisco. Seth, I'm going to give you your space to stretch your wings, make a joke about something at my expense, or otherwise share your feelings. And Nate, you get us out of here.
I'm very, very happy that we're still doing this together. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. And in the future, I will have something to tell listeners as to what they should be doing in terms, you already did it. And so you should also make sure to like and subscribe for more Only Weird Games and more Chiefs content. But I'm stoked to be doing this with you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. Still mad about Pirine, and just if the difference between Chris Jones and the Chiefs is like $2 million a year, come on, man. Like, just whatever. Well, what if you just okay, guys, we are fighting about the equivalent of Mike Dana's contract.
One of those people is a multi-billionaire, and they don't talk about him. So I'm just saying.
Yep.
One guy is a multi-billionaire who told Amazon, "You will start in my stadium." Amazon, if we gonna sign this deal, I'll see you in week 2.
But that's all I have. And honest to goodness, that was good.
Also, good luck, Tucker. Hey, Tucker, good luck figuring out when the show ends. I don't. Nate will say the last thing. We might laugh, but then you got to figure. Tucker, you got to pull the plug at the end. So Nate, you can say the last thing, and then we hope Tucker gets this figured out. Hey, also, we're gonna get to twice a week very, very soon, if not literally starting this week.
Thanks,
on that
Lee.
note, but we're doing a little, the cut down days and all of that. We're still figuring out the exact order of operations, but we're going to be back on a very similar schedule that you once known. Nate,
correct. So 2 things. At one point, this man said, "Amazon, that's us. Holla at your boy. Oh, you like the Chargers? Cool." Then he said, "What about that game? What about that game in Germany?" And the league was like, "Come on now, come on. Do you see Tom Brady? Hey, come on now. We can't give you this and that. Come on. Next year. So that's why the Chiefs this year are playing in Germany, ladies and gentlemen. And then secondly, guys, I've been covering this team for 6 going on 7 years now. I can't believe today is literally the first day that I can confirm that they actually talked to the Raiders. They actually did this. Do you understand? From everything I've learned, Carl Peterson would have hung up. It would have never got to Marty Schottenheimer. Never, ever. Okay. Hey, Marcus got any legs in him? Bring him aboard. That is cool because he got to free agency. They called each other and picked up the phone and did a deal. Oh my Lord! I just can't believe it. The Chiefs said, "You know what? Call him back." I can't believe it, guys. At some point, this man is going to be in uniform, playing his former team. Who's the arch rival of the team he's now on? Where's Al Davis? Where's Lamar Hunt? Where's Marty Schottenheimer? What is happening? What did they call these two teams? The league had to say, "Are you serious? What's happening? What?"
Hey, Nate, you know what's happening?
Did they even tell Clark? I don't even know if they told Clark. I don't know. Did they tell him? They tell him? I just can't believe that. Like, they called the Raiders, or the Raiders called them, and the conversation lasted more than 2 minutes, and they actually did a deal. So that is how Only Weird Game starts, where the Chiefs and the Raiders made a trade on cutdown day, and Chris Jones still isn't here. Yeah, guys, it's only going to get weirder from here. It's only going to get weirder from here.